Right, we're near the end. There was a good question, and I was talking about this week, uh, funny enough, of the difficulty people find of deciding which faction's which. And the question basically was, why was Trump banned from the Jewish-based social media when he's supporting the Jews himself? Is the gist of it anyway. The problem with that is the Rothschilds and the Black Sun are both predominantly Hebrew Anunnaki. You got to remember that the Rothschild family has more of the Draco DNA than any other clan. So that's where it begets or becomes muddy. Now, what if person A was a plant all along? Decided to play a acting role for a specific purpose, which then is handed over 4 years later. Is that a possibility? Yep. Will he get compensated for it? Yep. He then becomes the bad guy like they did 80 years ago in Germany. When perhaps he may have been the good guy. Or perhaps he was just playing a role of being a good guy whilst operating against the people. Just like Putin. Putin was trained, and I have spoken to Putin's trainer, to play the good guy in a bad role. Maybe Mr. Trump is the same. Time, as always, tells. Some word salad for you. We've covered this a lot because the Hebrew Anunnaki owned media likes to use this in films called dystopia. And it means the future, right? No. Dystopia, imaginary bad place. From this, bad, abnormal, plus ending abstracted from utopia. Earlier, it was used in medical use, displacement of an organ. 1844, with the second element from the Greek topos, meaning place. And dystopian was also used in a non-medical sense in 1868 by J.S. Mill. A dystopia is a community or society that is undesirable or frightening. Not exactly how they label it these days. Utopia means the greatest thing ever. All perfect. No again. 1551 from modern Latin, utopia means literally nowhere, and was coined by Thomas More and used as a title of the book in 1516 about an imaginary island enjoying the utmost perfection in legal, social and political systems. From the Greek ou, meaning not, and topos, place. Now the current, since 1960, explanation of the Greek ou, not, is an odd one, it says, as it derives from the pi root AIW, which means vital force, life, long life, and eternity. And extended to mean a perfect place by the 1610, commonly but incorrectly taken as from Greek EU, not OU, meaning good. And that is the error that has been reinforced by the introduction of dystopia by 1844. Now, on the same model, Bentham had cacotopia 1818 to indicate the geographical location of the worst as opposed to the best form of government. Utopian, dystopian government. Yes, all of them. Then we come to Erewhon, which is an anagram of nowhere. Erewhon inhabitants, it is said, worship superficiality, unreason, inconsistency, and evasion, and was considered a lampoon of the 19th century society. Superficiality, unreason, inconsistency, and evasion is now a jackass version of the 21st century society, if you ask me. Message to all the sleepers who called us nuts and conspiracy theories. Here is another of your illusions shattered. Thousands of children died in homes for unmarried mothers and their offspring that was run by Ireland's Catholic Church from the 1920s up to the 1990s, an inquiry found on Tuesday. And following are some of the extracts from that report in which the authors paraphrased the testimony of witnesses questioned. Some witnesses described that while working on their hands and knees, they were verbally abused about their status as fallen women. Witnesses reported being called sinners, dirt, spawn of Satan, or worse. A woman told the inquiry that she was 17 years old when she entered a mother and baby home in the early 1970s, finding it to be a mix of a hospital, school, and jail, full of grief and despair and of disturbing things, including, she said, women screaming and a woman who had lost her mind, and a room with a small white coffins. You were reminded every day that you were a sinner, said a witness who in the mid-70s became pregnant when she was 17. Her job was to clean the parquet floors in the home, and one nun would dirty the floor after she had cleaned it, and she would have to clean it all over again. Another witness who said she had been placed in a home following a rape recalled a girl dying there during childbirth, and this witness told the inquiry that the girl's parents would not take her home even in death. Another witness was 14 when she became pregnant, knew nothing of what was happening to her body or about childbirth, and although in serious pain from the onset of labour, was given no pain relief. The nun who was with her during the process told her, "You have had your fun, this is your payment." Now the baby weighed nearly 10 pounds, and one witness said she gave birth in a mother and baby home in the late 1960s. Having said to a nun in the home that her plan was to go to England with her baby to stay with her sister, the response to the witness was, "That doesn't happen here. You'll do what we tell you and that's it. You're not keeping that baby. You're going nowhere with that baby. You're going home and the baby is going somewhere else." I guess it wasn't a conspiracy after all. And the question is, are some of you people still going to go to Mass, despite all the proven allegations now? The Catholic Church and their disciples, the evil, witchcraft-laden nuns, have killed, abused, raped and murdered many people in many countries, not just Ireland either. They claim they are God's messengers. Have you asked which God they actually represent? I'll tell you. The Catholic Church's God is Lucifer. Now go and put that in your rosary beads and smoke it. Back in the UK, in the early 1970s, we went through what is known as the Winter of Discontent. And here is a small caption describing that event, and it may sound familiar. And the report said, the unions were the main cause of the blackouts in the 1970s. Miners opted to work to rule due to the proposed pay caps. So by the end of 1973, coal reserves were running extremely low. This forced the government into action. Problem, reaction, solution. You see, that's the first one. They decided to impose restrictions on power usage. The clowns decided to impose that on me last night during the show, but I digress. Electricity was rationed and firms, listen closely, not classed as essential services, were forced to restrict their power usage to 3 days a week. And then we ended up with a 3-day working week, which may sound great to some people at the time, but when you adjusted wages to compensate for this, you can understand how families quickly found themselves on the breadline at that time. There was many of them. In blackout areas, schools, homes and businesses used paraffin lamps and candles for light. The street lights were out, houses were plunged into darkness, and that was just the tip of the iceberg. I went through that, I remember it. And butchers' shops, long before the big box companies took over that, started to make makeshift candles out of string and lard, which is animal fat, which smelt horrible and were also a real fire hazard. And families would sit around a fireside watching coals crackle or huddle around gas rings on the cooker for heat. The difference between then and now was it sounded bleak, and it was bleak. But on the plus side, it made the country unite. And that is what is required now. But think tanks use these events to formulate future events. And the line, electricity was rationed and firms not classed as essential services were forced to restrict their power usage to 3 days a week. Essential services, or the modern day version, essential sales items. All the same idea, all the same planning, and the 3-day week went to the non-day week. That's how these clowns work. In a book called Insight, organisational psychologist Tasha Eurich, tackles a topic that many of us think we've mastered, but many haven't. I wouldn't include THI in that. Self-awareness. And in a series of surveys, Eurich found that 95% of people think they are self-aware, but only 10 to 15% truly are. The title of the headline of that story: only 15% of people are self-aware. It's that figure again. 15%. We are not the 99%. We are the 15%. And you should all wear it proud. We'll be back shortly. Don't look back in anger or in fear. In fact, don't look back at all. Look forward. The old world now is in total chaos and in spectacular freefall as the factions struggle to stem the flow of information. You have Iran and North Korea doing weapons tests, Britain and America supporting Israel in a trade war with China, Israel being Israel and threatening everything and everyone, India and China still fighting over borders, and the EU on the brink of total collapse as member states threatening to pull out. The old world in lockdown over an engineered virus, businesses and jobs collapsing, whilst financial harvesters prepare fresh air tokens for us all. Why? Because they lost control over the old system. Meanwhile, in the land of theatre and lunacy, we have so-called people representing the people playing infantile-level politics games whilst the country is being torn apart by the mainstream media, big tech and social media giants. Alt media is no different, a total cesspit of bullshittery, the very few for and by the people maligned and divided by others because of their own rank insecurity. They will copy your ideas and run with it themselves, all for their own self-importance. Currently, the US military and the SSP goons are playing war games rhetoric. Military hardware flying here, there and everywhere, and the old world has descended into a mass of insanity, never witnessed before on this level in history. It is a shameful disgrace of epic proportions by so-called leaders, and like experts, it is now proven there are no leaders. Only a moronic bunch of jackasses playing games of their own self-importance and control ideologies. The lot of you are an utter disgrace to this planet and proven incompetent on a mass scale, riddled with child-level thinking in a child-level world brought to you by child-level schools, colleges and universities. I'm calling out here and now on the UPU and the Council to eliminate or remove all Hebrew Anunnaki here and now. We the people have had enough of your delays. We want them gone permanently. To the old world clowns, bloodline families, royalty, elders, agencies, presidents, prime ministers and even trustees, all of you have failed on a spectacular level. Step down and step aside, and let the people with adult minds, adult thinking, beyond astral level development, and people with basic common sense an opportunity to run this planet in a much better way. This has been the Truth, Honour and Integrity Show. My name's Thomas Williams. Bye for now.